Once again, we're here on another training video with PSS Pro series. And today's training involves Accounts Receivable. So here I'm going to log in my user ID and password. Once that is done, you see two menus, File and Help. You're going to select File, Open, and Accounts Receivable. Select the company that you're basically logging into, and then you see three other menus: Transaction, Maintain, and Print. Maintain, do our setup for customers. So on the screen, you can select the user by code, by name, or by telephone number. Well, at this point, we're just going to list the user. Currently, we have a customer in there by the name CME Test Customer. Now select it. Here choose the current balance that's outstanding, any open credit, terms on the account, which is due upon receipt, how much is on order in value, last invoice sales amount, the date, last payment amount, and the date. These are GL code for accounts receivable and the sales GL code. Here it says your default sales clerk IDs for this customer. And if we're using pricing methods, but you can select a pricing code here. Otherwise, failing that, by going edit, you can select a pricing code. By default, it's list, which is basically just a retail price, right? You can put in address, city, country, telephone numbers, and all the relevant information, and the email address for that customer, and the contact person, their TRA number, and the title of the company, right? Next tab, ship to, is used for, like, if for instance you have customers that have like ship to location. So let's select back that customer. So for instance, CME Test Customer, but CME Test Customer have 5 different branches. So we can basically say, example, call it CME B1, which is CME Customer Branch 1. We can give the name New Kingston branch. Put the address, activate it, yes, and just click save. Right? The screen on this side now explains that, for instance, if we're in a point of sale environment where customers have points card or discount cards or etc. This side is what is used to set up that actual customer account. On the statistics now, this shows you like a year-to-date transaction based on largest invoice, largest balances, period-to-date sales, average days to pay, total invoices by period, and how many invoices were done, payments on credit notes, etc. This is basically a graphical report that shows you how the client purchases from us. So at this point, the only transaction there is just January. This basically nothing there. January 2012, there's nothing there. We can click calculate to calculate what the real true average is. And so you see just July 2015 is what is there basically, right? The next thing is, let's go back to the main form. We can go to customer inquiry, and under customer inquiry you have the different reports. You have payments, account statement, open receivables, price code, delivery and delivered, invoice detail, invoice summary, order and shipments, and layaways. So payments is basically what it's used for. You can do your cash receipt report based on money collected on the account. And account statement is basically sending out statements to customers for their balances, or you can do a ledger towards your customers and send it out to them. Open receivables, where you can print out receivables to your customers, showing basically what their aging is based on 30, 60, 90, 120 days aging in payments. The balance is outstanding, right? Pricing code is if you can print a report showing all the different pricing codes. As I said to you before, with the list price, your list price and such forth is. For instance, you have a company that does, if you buy 5 to 10, by 1 to 3 you get at this price retail, and at 3 to 6 is at wholesale, 6 to 12 is at another price, and basically at a case price you get at a different price. So in that case, we show you that in the inventory control training video. You see the setup of how that is done. Right? Delivered and delivered is for the for clients that you have that basically utilize a delivery counter. Like for hardware, like a customer purchase an invoice at the counter before they can actually leave the premises with the goods. There's a delivery counter that flags every invoice that is going through the door. I can print a report of what wasn't flagged, because you have times where customers purchase goods but they basically don't pick it up same time. They leave it. Like an example, like cement. Person's building a house but they want 1,000 bag of cement. They basically pay for the 1,000 bag of cement but they only want 200 now. Then they come for the rest slowly, right? Invoice detail report, basically I can give a breakdown of what invoice was sold to this customer, what items, and invoice summary. I'll give an invoice summary of what invoices were done based on a summary total, and the detail will basically give you based on what items a person purchased. Order and shipment is like, for instance, it's for features like for the media package or sales order, what customers currently have outstanding as orders or basically not yet shipped as an invoice. Layaway, or for layaway customers report, so you can basically say this customer had a layaway system. So that's like for point of sale environment, where you can basically print a report of all layaways under this account. Right? That is said and done. You know the different menus here. You can edit, delete, go to the next account if there's any. Say in the file there's no more previous. If there's any more, I can click OK, right? And then with the system too, you can open multiple screens. So you can have one screen open querying account, and then you can click on the next screen and check basically your next account and verify the information in it. Or as you see here, you can have both of them really open, right? But which you don't, it's not necessary, but this is what it can do, right? Okay, so I'm gonna close this. Next section, based on all these different setups, item maintenance, as we say, gonna be the inventory management section of it. Salesperson setup, you know, would have been set up already. Here's where you basically would have a salesperson set up, right? On here, currently only have HQ, and this is where we add the different sales clerk that are used based on the system. Rule ID is where we basically have our setup, where you have the terms, so like due upon receipt, and you have a different category, 0/0/1, which this has been done by your maintenance person, your system administrative person, or your accounts department, which basically which be taught and know to them. But the administrative side of it will be able to do all of that setup, right? Transaction categories for GL setup, point of sale setup is where you set up your registers, draw code, the different payment types with a check. Gift card maintenance is for gift cards, like for instance for point of sale environment, people having wedding, want to be able to prepare a wedding gift card and you can give to friends or whatever. Comments is the comments that you can basically print on an invoice at over the counter sales transaction. That will be printed on an invoice. Chart of account maintenance is like setting up your different chart of accounts. When the system post a ER journal is a feature where, for instance, if the system is linked to general ledger, you will be able to post the GL side of it, right? So what we basically have with accounts receivable is customers, right? And all the other setup and the salesperson setup. So I'm gonna then go to transaction menu. And under transaction menu we have invoice operation. Which invoice operation, this is where you go to enter invoices. This is where all invoices and credit notes are done. Cashier payment screen is basically used for environment, like for instance where you have when customers come in you have like 5, 4, 3 different billers. But basically payments are made not at the biller's counter but basically at the cashier counter. So at the cashier counter there will be a terminal and cashier basically punch in that transaction biller number of the transaction that they did, whether it's like a ticket number, and it will generate it into an invoice at that point in time. Clear a ticket is so if a customer do, you have the billers are doing bill for customers and they put them on hold, and once that accumulates like 3 months down the line you have not generated that invoice, you can basically clear out that information out of the database. Void, change void invoice is basically where you void the actual invoice, and you can generate tax credits or edit the information on the heading of the invoice. Right? Enter receipts where you can enter payment on account. Enter receipts is applying payments to account. Right? Post here journal is the same as under the meeting menu is post here. Apply credits to invoices. Basically, for instance, you have a credit note that is outstanding or open receipts, you can apply that receipt to the invoices after. Close period is there for closing off period for all the current data from current history. Delivery station, because we're used for like the same section where I tell you we're undelivered or delivered. Well, basically it's like at the counter, as I said, customer purchased some goods, and at the exit counter, the security, you plug in your invoice number to verify it's authenticated through the system. Alright? Release to general ledger is where all transactions that are done under here will be released to general ledger. Right? So let's get inside of the section of it now where invoices are done. Right? We'll go in here. And then when doing an invoice, although your user ID is logged in, the system needs to keep a check of each register code, because at this point you select your register code B1. I set you based on the setup from the administrative side of it. The draw code is be assigned to that register. The sales clerk will be assigned to the register, and the printer can also be assigned. But at this point we didn't assign the printer, so we're gonna select our default printer before continuing. I remember if all these sections are not filled in, you can't continue. The system will basically block you. Right? This setup is not a point of sale environment, but in a point of sale environment to do default to the customer, the cash customer, I basically just start cashing items. But here we're gonna select the customer we're billing first. So we're gonna select our customer, CME test customer. Right? And if we're billing direct to if not billing it direct to CME, can go to the customer address information and select the actual branch, and then it comes right here, start asking the items. So if we go back here, you see CME B1, which is New Kingston branch, but it's billed to test customer or shipped to here. Right? And as you go along, you see the different tabs that are available. These are not enabled based on after the transaction is being processed. You get access to these. Alright? So next step. So here now you'll just see the screen here. At the top here it tells you the name of the ship to customer that you currently selected. This button right here tells you you can search by a product line, which is basically set up from the inventory, search by class, separate item. How the system basically work is, if you're billing items, say for instance you might have 3 phones purchased of the same number, same type of phone. You scan the first phone over the counter, scan the second phone. When scanning the second phone, instead of it creating a second line item on the bill, it groups it together. But with that feature being set up in the inventory like that, you can basically turn that off by separating items. So if you scan the first phone, you can basically scan the second phone. It shows the second phone as a second line item. Alright. Open draw is a feature for point of sale where The cashier might not be tendering out an invoice, but she basically have the access to just open her drawer, whether she going for lunch or to make change, right? Control F12 logout is basically where the user, cashiers or supervisor can log in to do change to the actual transaction, give discounts or such for. When logging out, the logout has to be done for the screen that you're in. Else, if you use this logout at the top, then it won't take active on the screen itself. The access levels won't enable based on that in all cases, right? At the bottom here now, you see where it says change quantities, where you can, if you had items on the bill, you can change the quantity. So edit items, where you can edit back an item information on a bill. So I'm gonna first select an item. Let's select events. Okay. Prompt you, how many quantity? What's the quantity is? So I'm gonna do an event, and it's 2 events. Okay, let's say 1 event, and then put in $1,500, because we are putting a price different from the actual item itself price, which was originally 0. Just the same prompt as price adjustment. Keep it or leave it, calculate it back to 0. Let's say keep it. And basically you see the line number, the item number, the description, quantity, price, discount, total, and the total inclusive of GCT. And this summarize, it's also summarize your subtotal, GCT, and total. Here at the bottom you see it says change quantity. So if I was to click on change quantity, select the item that I want, press enter. So this time I want 2. It says keep at price adjustment. Change quantity change to 2. And total change accordingly. Alright, edit item now is the, for instance, it says okay, no item selected. I have to select the item first and then go edit item. And at the point I can put a note on it, or I can change the quantity, change the price, change the discount, change the tax code, or assign the salesperson to the actual transaction. So at that point I say okay, select the salesperson to the actual transaction. Right? I'm gonna save. Okay, so next option, you can give discount by percentage, and giving discount by percentage says this discount by item or total bill, or you can cancel. So if we're gonna only give discount to a particular item, select items, go to total bill, we go total. So let's say total bill, and we're gonna give a 5% discount. Once you put in 5%, I'm gonna post and then assign it. It gives a 5% discount on all items that are billed. That is up basically enabled with the feature to give discount to the actual item. And also that's all of these options that you see here are basically access levels, right, which will be set up by the administrator for whoever is using it. But you know, as I'm logged in now, so all accesses are given to me. Assign taxes. So if for instance we have government agencies that we want to take off the GCT of the bill, you can go assign taxes, and it prompts you again, okay, yes or no. You want to say no, I want to zero rate the bill. So if you notice, GCT comes off the bill, right? Next thing at this point, we can say hold the bill. We can say okay, hold the bill. It prompts you to either print it as a performer, email it as a performer, or go none, just holding the bill, and it gives you a holding ticket number. At this point, you can select another customer to cash. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna bring back the same invoice. So as you see here, swipe card. If we were to scan based on point of sale setup, we can have points card customer scan come in, search by a ship to name or phone number, hold the bill, or we can make a layaway payment, which will activate this section of it right here. So if we go hold the invoice, I'm gonna import. That's the number 1 that we just created. Click OK, and you can go back here now, and it says okay, let's assign back the taxes to the item. And the tax code was Y. Okay, so right away the GCT is added back to the bill, right? Next thing we can do is also return the item to stock. So if we're going to go do a return, the section over here says quantities when you're billing out something. Change that, so you change the return. So we then can say okay, select, we're going to do a return on a show. One show, and that one show is $500. Keep it. You notice the value is negative, so whatever this is 2850 less the 500 give you a total 2350. Whatever GST calculate and total plus GST. Remove item now. So for instance, I want to remove this actual item. Can click on that. I'm going to remove item. So I have to remove line number 2, remove. So it's gone. There you go. Bring the total back to that. Change description. Based on access level, say I wanted to change the description on the word events. I can go events for Burger King. Right? And then we go save, keep. It says price is manually set and discount not 0. Right? So it's a keep the discount. You can say yes, keep the discount. So keep the $1,500 because the original price was 0. I'll add the additional discount to it. So you say okay, keep the discount, right? And so the description is changed, events for Burger King. And at this point in time, we can then click OK, save. If we save this bill, it saves and then print automatically to a printer or whichever output source that we have. But in this case, no, what I want to do is basically show the payment. Why it didn't come with the payment screen is because the actual terms is set to due upon receipt, which means I have a credit on the account. Alright? Credit facility on the account. But I want to change this now. There's no cash on delivery. So I'm going to show you quickly here now how we create that scenario of it. So you're going to go here, rule ID. Rule ID, okay. 0/0/0. Enter. Add. I'm going to say cash on delivery. Right, I'm going to select what was the type code. It was a customer terms. So click save, exit, and refresh that. Once you refresh that now, click on the list, see, cash on delivery. Right, so at this point now you go back here now, or I could click the save. See, prompts you the payment type. So you're here now and you say, oh no, I want to go back to the actual item so I can change something on the screen. Now you notice you don't have no access, but this is enabled payment. So then go return item information. So now we can add an item or remove something, or so basically you can change what the quantity on this item to 1, keep the price, keep this discount. Alright? So if we either press enter or click save, it brings us to the payment section. And the payment type by default is check. Alright? So select check and it asks for the check number. So we can go BNS number, blah blah, whatever number. It asks how much is to be tendered. I'm going to say $1,660.13. I'm going to show you something before I actually save this bill. Let's cancel it. I'm going to return to item information. I'm going to create another payment type, which is cash. Just go here. I'm going to maintain point of sale payment type. And this now we can say CA, call the code CA, which is cash. And put in the description as such, cash. Payment active, yes. Payment type 1 is used for cash. Payment type 2 is used for check. Payment type 3, all these different payment types are used for something relevant, which is, you know, you can get that based on the administrator setup, right? So payment type number 1 is cash. Separate payment types, nope. And that's with the default GL account, so we can say cash in bank and click save. Let me also show you something now, feature where we can also, with the checks, we can say, okay, check is separated, separate payment. Okay, I'm not sure how that works. Okay, so here again now we'll refresh. So by pressing enter again, then go cash, check. So I'm gonna say okay. If it's a check, BNS, and the person pay $500 with it. Tender that. The transaction is finished. So the first payment type is check, the reference number, paid amount, discount amount 0. But they have another check that they wanted. I'm gonna show you the cheap neat feature. If they might, and this is also used for like credit cards or debit cards. And they paid another payment again, which is an NCB check this time. But this time now, the balance that is outstanding to be paid is $910. Because right now we already tendered $750 out of the total $1,660. So the customer is gonna give me cash, but this time gonna give me $1,000 cash. And at that point it says save transaction, it goes save. At that point, prints the bill, updates the inventory, update the customer account, and then it basically attempts now to print the bill. And after printing the bill, from the $1,000, it gives you the relevant change from the $1,000. If the balance was $910 as cash, and the $10 amount was $1,000, the change now is given that's supposed to be given back is $89.87, and it tells you basically what the invoice number is, number 3, right? Different from the ticket number originally, which was number 1. You click OK, and you can go next. Basically, start the next customer, right? Here we can do a layaway payment. If the actual transaction was a layaway, you can click layaway payment, and it says select the layaway payment, but there's none because I have not selected any account, right? And there's basically no layaway payment there. So let's exit this now, right? And if we were to now, let's go to reports, and under the report section of it, say we wanted to basically see what invoices were done for the day. Most accountants departments use this report as very, very importantly. These 2 reports, invoice register and cash sheet, basically telling you what was invoiced for the day and what money was collected for the day. Sales analysis to tell you basically what items were sold for the day, right? So if we were to go in, and then here now is where you can reprint invoice, reprint POS ticket, or reprint a receipt. This under status reports, you have customer statement. You can print the customer statement by batch or individual and send out at the end of the month. Print open receivables by batch also again and send out at the end of the month. So if we're to go into the customer statement section of it, here says this is a report driver here. This is where you can select a customer or is all customers you want. And you put when it's a statement in. So I say okay, press enter on any option that is there to change it. You don't just type over this side, you press enter. Right? You can do it by the end of cutoff the 31st of July 2015. You can select the account salesperson to do the transaction against, or you basically can say okay fine, if that's the case I can select the account salesperson and generate all the different account transactions that are assigned to that account itself, right? And then when you want to generate that, you basically can go generate. It says include 0 balances, no, and then at this point you can preview it by detail or summary. So let's say detail now, let's preview that. This is what the statement looks like. So it's a statement of account. Normally it can be a logo and company information right here. Shows you the customer you're doing the statement for. It gives you a date, invoice reference or payment reference here, and debit and credit and running balance, and it groups every each payment as such. So if you look at the last payment that we just did, you see it's $250. The change that was given, the $500 and the $1,000 10 that basically keeps the transaction and tells you what the receipt number is, number 2, and as such you keep the information, right? So at the bottom here it gives you an agent for the statement itself, and the balance is outstanding for the customer number and the statement date, right? So let's close that. The next option is open receivables agent, which is similar to the accounts statement. So if I go 7/31, 2015, and I say the end percenter again, and then here now you can also do the open receivable by account salesperson or the statement, the transaction salesperson, which account might have a clerk to it, but the actual transaction from our account might have different clerk. It all depends on how the company is set up. So here we just go generate. Actually, you want to include 0 balance, no, and it says order by ship to, yes. I'm gonna show you how that works, and then can preview by detail, and let's preview. Alright, so looking at this report now, alright, it's CME, the customer, and this is the actual open receivable that is outstanding. Alright, so the date, the invoice number, the due date, the amount, and the agent is 0 between 30, 31, 64. We're going across and show you what the balance is and give you a total at the end. The section that I just mentioned to you that are actually based on the ship to information, where that will do underneath this customer, based on the format of the report, you can see a breakdown of what receivables were outstanding for that actual ship to, which is the New Kingston one, right? But based on that case, there's only just one format that we have inside here, so it's basically not set up on this setup here. But all the reports are customized. We can create multiple reports layout for different reports. So like on the home receivables agent, we can have 5, 10, 15 different report formats. So we have the default one that is currently set, and this one is for like salesperson if you're gonna basically do it by default salesperson instead, right? Summary, looking at the report by summary, Let's select what the default one and we'll preview. Instead of showing you the detailed transactions, it just give you a summary of what the customer was signing. This you can give a salesperson and they go out and just cut, or the collections department just call the customers. But if you want to see by detail and if you want to verify with the customer on your account, you can tell them what invoice numbers are outstanding. Alright? And the next report I'll set is sales commission report, product sales report. And basically the sales commission report is if you want to give commission to your staff based on sales or by payment. This report, products payment commission report, is that you can do this report to basically say you want to give commission based on a product line and based on the payment of the product line. So like for instance in other environment you want to say pay all commissions based on lumber invoices only, lumber product line only. You can pay commission based off that only, right? Deliver undelivered, you can print your report based on what is being delivered and not being delivered as yet, right? Transaction report now, as I said, you can reprint the invoice, reprint the previous ticket, or reprint a receipt to give it to a customer. Invoice register report is basically what I said, what is being used often. Here you can put in your date from and your date to, and you generate your report. So like for instance here now, let's say between the 1st of July to the end of July, you see all invoices that were done, and you can look at that by detail, and what that detail breaks down and gives to you is, as you see here, invoice number 1, the date, the customer amount, subtotal for GST, the terms, the tax, and the total, and that basically gives you that running total at the end. But if you want to basically see by summary, just basically group the dates together and give it by the dates, the date, 2nd and the 6th and the 16th, and give you a total by each date come across, right? And that's the invoice register. The print menu now, like for here on the cash receipts now, to show how much money was collected. And we can do back the same date period again, and then we can generate that, and from that you can look at it also again by detail. All the reports are by summary and detail based on how it's formatted. Some are basically just one format. And here now it says, so on the 6th, this is what the collection is, the invoice number it's applied to, the actual customer, the actual reference number, and the entry which was done by, and the posted date when it was done, and the receipt number, basically the internal receipt that the system generates, and the amount, whether it's paid amount or a discount amount. And it breaks, divides up by date. In an environment like for instance where there are cashiers involved, you can change order to say by print report, order by cashier, and you have different options. You can do it by date, reference, payment, sales, or cashier. So in this environment you can say by cashier, and at this point also we can determine to balance the cashier to say okay, how many $1,000 was given. You can press enter and say okay, $5,000 was given, and whatever the case. And once you generate that, you can preview that by detail. By detail will basically order by cashier code and give a breakdown, which is similar to the previous report that is there. So in this case now we then can say okay, let's select the actual cashier report, and these are the different cashier reports that are there available on the system, right? So if you can say by summary now, by summary we basically group it together and show you the actual cashier report by summary, right? And then from that, all the different options are there available when generating any reports, and you can look at it as such. So as you see here, it says the cashier, this is what this cashier did, alright, which is B1, and you can say check $100 total deposit, 5,000 difference, 4,900, which is basically saying it's short of whatever it is, right? This is what cash was given, check, change due, check amount, and whatever total. And it says total $5,000 here. That's it. The total difference is between the $5,000, whatever the case may be. But in this case, you'd have to put in the individual cashier itself. Alright, you can't just leave the cashier code blank, which is here. So you go back up here, and we're basically going to only balance for B1, so the report will look more formatted properly. So let's preview that again. It says cash change due given back from tendered amount, check, and that what it is, 1,660. How much was the cashier came in? $5,000. So the cashier deposit $5,000, which is over basically by $3,000 something, and that's what the system basically monitors, right? I give you a total of, just give you a running total of what the cashier total system amount was, right? So you can do it that way also. And the next report that can be done from the system is sales analysis, where you can do your report by for a particular period, by a location. You can do it by item, customer number, sales number, product, class, price code, transaction, user, bill items, and location, all that by location. So the extensive report and these are different options that are there, and as you go through the training session, you will always you can get all of that info in. Sales tax report is when you're filing for GST. You can do your sales tax report, and from this it will give you basically a breakdown for a particular period. Let's look at that, and this basically you can look at detail, and the detail also will show you what it looks like here. To your total cost of sales, total tax, and you can look at this report by summary too. If you look at by summary, you see it give you the breakdown why on the different dates, different taxes that were generated for the different dates, tell the tax amount by different dates. And you notice you give it by different dates. You can also change the order from by dates and basically do it by a tax code, which is Y alone. And if you look at it by summary, you can basically give you a total of the tax code itself. Let me change the format, which is the order by tax code. Right, preview. That's it. Alright, so you say Y and give you a total and the total tax that is supposed to be payable. Alright, and from that now you can do AR if you link to Accounts Receivable file listing. You can print your customer listing, customer distribution by value, and customer year-to-date values. And the business status report will basically give you a breakdown of what your account statistics are, which basically show your current balances under your receivables, payables, per sales order, purchase order, and total billing GCT for the period. And it tells you what current balance is outstanding, $366 on your receivables, and gives you basically your inventory value if there's any as such. Right, so that's it basically on the account receivable side of it. Thanks for listening, and I hope you join us on the next training session available. Until then, later. Thanks.